Hello everyone, I'm Isaac Yamamoto and today I'm playing World of Warships. I'm in the HMCS Haida, a tribal class destroyer, and it's a ship with a very extensive military history. In fact, it's got the probably most interesting and most extensive naval history of any ship in the Canadian Navy. And with that, it has gotten the nickname the fightingest ship in the Royal Navy. Royal Canadian Navy, I should say. So it sunk, I think it sunk multiple German destroyers during the Second World War, one of which basically single-handedly. Submarines, probably some cargo ships and stuff like that, and it's really an interesting ship to read up on. Now I think World of Warships, when they released it, they also published some articles about this, which really help get a feel for a ship, I think, and that's really quite cool. Now in the game, I consider the Haida to definitely be quite a fighting ship. It's a knife fighter, and it can deal some serious damage. It's got good guns, great stealth, it's pretty fast, nimble, and it's got a very interesting and potent set of consumables. Having creeping smoke generator, which is really interesting, along with the standard engine boost and a hydroacoustic surge. Now while the hydroacoustic surge may not be the strongest, it is very useful to spot torpedoes a bit earlier and to maybe even detect some enemy ships. And for me the smokescreen is also really useful in an engagement like this, where I have to move because the enemy is dropping torpedoes towards me, but I won't be seen for the coming while because I can just pop new bits of smoke. Now with the Haida being maybe the pride of the Royal Canadian Navy, there is actually a Canadian camouflage available with the maple leaf flag, costing an additional 2,000 doubloons. Unfortunately, it doesn't grant any additional combat bonuses, which I think is a shame, and up until now I haven't bought it yet. I've been a bit reluctant to buy the Haida initially, ever since it was released, simply because it is a Commonwealth ship in the game. And the Commonwealth currently has the Perth, the Vampire and the Haida. And while those are three fun ships, that also means the Haida isn't very useful as a crew trainer. You can train your Perth or Vampire captain if you have that, but otherwise not so much. So that's really a bit of a shame in my opinion. Would love to see maybe more Commonwealth ships. Maybe we could have like a tech tree line of various destroyers of Commonwealth nations. With this creeping smoke generator, for instance, it would be quite cool. So when we look into the armament of the Haida has three dual mount 120mm guns, so that's 6 barrels, and they shoot pretty quickly. I think it's like 3.5 seconds or something like that. Pretty rapid fire. They deal quite serious damage, although of course at tier 8, tier 9 targets you'll struggle a bit to put out the damage. And in addition you have a secondary turret with a 5 km range, 100 mm dual turret mounted in the back of your ship. Now in effect you won't be using that too often, so your firepower in the guns is really concentrated in the main guns, evidently. Speccing into secondaries here is definitely not recommended. But with the main guns we can see here, you can deal some nice damage on battleships, set some fires. The fire chance is definitely quite good, especially for these light guns. And then also with it being a destroyer, it has torpedoes, and it's got one quadruple mount torpedo launcher for torpedoes. But it being a, well, effectively British ship, Commonwealth, it's able to drop these torpedoes one by one. And we will see later on that it can be very useful. Now, with the drop on the Warspite, it actually proved to be a bit annoying because the Warspite really squeezed himself in between those torpedoes. But later on we'll see that it can be very useful as well to drop your torpedoes one by one. You are also able to drop your torpedoes in full sets of 4. But since it only has one launcher, I generally prefer to drop them one by one. We can see here with the York coming in, again, the phenomenal detection range on the Haida. The York being 6.1 km away, and we don't need to worry too much about him detecting us. With a magnificent detectability of 5.7 kilometers, and really that's amazing for tier 7. Japanese destroyers will get in that range, but anything with real firepower on it in the main guns should be pretty jealous of that. And of course, that combined with the creeping smoke and the hydroacoustic surge of the Haida makes for a very, very potent and interesting combination. In this case, however, since I'm shooting, yeah, I'm spotted, and then your detectability, of course, doesn't matter too much. But I managed to take the cap safely, and that's pretty cool. Ideally I'd go on to the D cap and take that, but if possible I would like to see if we can take out the Sinop first, using our torpedoes, but they're not quite reloaded yet. And torpedoes don't reload that quickly. I was trying to find how quickly they'd reload, but I can't see it. We'll see it in a bit now though. I think it's around the 80-second mark, but I'm not quite sure. It's nearly 100 seconds, so that's somewhat steep. Now, if we take a look at the torpedoes here, which are manually dropped, we can see that I've dropped them quite close together, and as long as the Sinop keeps backing up, that could be very, very interesting. So the closer you drop them together, of course, the harder it is to hit an enemy target, but the advantage is that if you hit, you might hit all 4 torpedoes. And I managed to hit all 4 torpedoes indeed, securing a devastating strike on the enemy's Sinop. And yeah, that's something where the torpedo armament of the Haida, even if it only has 4 torpedoes, this is very potent indeed. And of course you'll also find this on the British destroyers, but yeah, not on the Yeah, it actually is on the Gallant and on the Cossack as well. Also on the premium British destroyers, but also on the Haida as well. But the unique features of the Haida with the um, smoke, the creeping smoke generator, that's really interesting. And in this battle, I think I could have done without the creeping smoke generator. It definitely gives some quality of life at some points. But there will be battles where the creeping smoke allows you to shoot a lot at range and farm down some battleships or cruisers or push in on enemy destroyers. Um, yeah, I think the creeping smoke is really an amazing fit with this style of torpedoes, the stealth found on the Haida, the rapid firing guns, and the hydroacoustic surge. So that's a beautiful combination, really. Now, what we want to be doing in this battle is see if we can get rid of the Mutsuki, obviously. He's quite a bit away from me, but I hope our Bodioni and Sinop will be able to take care of him. And in the meantime, I can just start shooting at King George. And here's a beautiful example of the shell ballistics of the Haida. We can really see that we do have some shell travel time. But the arcs are not too bad, and yeah, we can definitely hit the target, put out a good number of shells. We don't necessarily deal too much damage, but if we get a fire every now and then, that would be nice. Meanwhile, we can just keep chewing away tiny bits of damage. Knock out an AA mount, not the most important in a battle without an aircraft carrier, but we'll take it, I guess. I've started deploying my smoke screen simply because I wanted to get undetected by the King George, but currently nothing can see me anyway. So I'll speed up a bit, which means that I'm now leaving my smoke screen. But should I get spotted, I can always slow down a bit and then I'll be inside my smoke screen for a little while. And in addition, I'm nearly full HP while the battle is about to end, I guess. So losing a bit of HP might not be the end of the world anyway. We can try and take the cap here and maybe see if we will find the Maas, the Emil better. See if we can put our guns to use. The enemy doesn't really show up yet. And well, ideally the enemy should just push in here because, well, they're losing the game badly and they need to do something. I'm thinking here, okay, I might be able to take some shots at the better. See if I can pop around the corner here and I can probably take him. And never mind. There he goes. So then I suppose I can take the gunfight with the Maas, but there's an island in front of me. So I'd first have to turn a bit. And he's not spotting me yet, so might as well drop some torpedoes towards the Graf Spee. And only then start shooting for the Maas. Run my hydroacoustic surge, just to be sure that he isn't dropping any torpedoes for me. We can just absolutely devastate this Maas. Before he's even shooting at me, we've already killed him. Breaking up 2 fires on the Maas, but unfortunately that's not very useful. Graf Spee has dodged our torpedoes. Yeah, we take some shots at the New York. And that's the battle then. But all in all, it's a very versatile ship. And I think it's very much fun to play. So then to close off, I'll take a quick look in the board at some of the statistics and all that. First of all, I'll show you the Canadian camouflage that's available for this ship. And I think in the normal game it's actually a bit more color saturated than it is here. But I haven't got this camouflage, so I cannot show it to you. But we can clearly see the red white pattern with the maple leaves, and I think it's a really cool detail and a cool camouflage. I think you can change the Commonwealth flag in the back here for a Canadian flag as well. Then when we take a look at the survivability, the hit point pool of the Haida is quite decent at 15.7 thousand. Now you can actually improve that quite a bit by taking the survivability expert skill, which would improve it by somewhat 2500 HP, I think. Yeah, you could even improve the range on the guns by quite a bit towards somewhat 14.5 kilometers, I think even slightly more. I don't quite advise on doing that because you don't really need the range on the Haida for 12.3 kilometers. It's really quite enough, especially for these 120mm shells that really won't hit that much beyond that. What you could do is pick up some demolition expert to increase the already quite decent fire chance of 5%. Now 5% is really not that high, but the reason I'm saying it's quite decent is because the rate of fire on these guns is really quite high. It's 5 seconds base, but you can improve that with the basic firing training skill, and then you can really lift your fires quite a lot by taking demolition expert and mounting some flags. Now I've got a 13-point captain, so I could theoretically still take demolition expert, survivability expert, and still have yeah, then I'd be done with my skills. Other recommendations would be the smokescreen expert, so you can lay even larger creeping smoke screens. Priority target can be very useful in knife fighting to know who's shooting at you. I don't recommend the inertia view skill. It's in my opinion no longer worth it for 120mm guns. But what I can definitely recommend is to slot a smoke generator in the upgrade slot 3 if you have that available. And if you do not have that available, you can of course pick one up in the armory. Now this is all personal preference, but due to the nature of the smoke generator modification, I find that the smoke generator modification is most worth it on creeping smokes such as found on the Haida, Wanghe, Perth. Yeah, so that really gives something extra to this ship. All in all, I've waited far too long to get this ship, but here it finally is shining in my board, and I hope you guys like this video, maybe like the Haida as well, or hate encountering it. So as usual, let me know what you think, and if you have any suggestions or questions, post them below and I'll reply as soon as I can. See you all around, and see you in the next video.